The twin moons of Kepler 442b cast pale shadows across the research outpost as Dr. Kim Hanna finished her evening reports. The small facility hummed quietly with the sounds of life support systems and distant machinery. Her daughter, 8-year-old Somin, sat cross-legged in the corner of the main lab, her small fingers dancing through holographic puzzles that glowed softly in the dim light. She hummed a cheerful tune she had learned from Earth's broadcasts, completely unaware that this would be her last normal evening. Dr. Hanna smiled as she watched her daughter play. Life on this remote research station was lonely, but moments like these made it worthwhile. Somin was brilliant for her age, already showing signs of the scientific curiosity that ran in their family. The little girl had adapted well to life among the stars, turning the cold metal corridors into her playground. "Mama, look!" Somin called out, her voice echoing in the empty lab. "I solved the quantum maze." The holographic puzzle collapsed into sparkling particles before reforming into a new, more complex pattern. "Very good, sweetheart," Dr. Hanna replied, saving her data files. "Just a few more minutes, then it's time for bed." Above them, space remained calm and empty. The research station orbited peacefully around the distant planet, its sensors detecting nothing unusual in the vast darkness. The early warning systems showed green lights across all boards. Everything was normal. That changed in an instant. The Zephyrian scouts materialized without warning, their advanced cloaking technology making their approach completely invisible to human sensors. 3 sleek vessels descended like silver teardrops, their hulls reflecting the twin moon's pale light. Energy fields crackled around them, casting strange purple shadows across the station's hull. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his tall, angular form silhouetted against the viewing screens. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them naturally stronger and more resilient than most. To him, humans were just another primitive species scattered across their tiny corner of the galaxy. Standard specimen collection protocols, he ordered his crew with casual indifference. Preliminary scans show typical carbon-based life forms. Low technology level. This should be routine. His lieutenant, a younger Zephyrian with bright yellow markings across his face, studied the readings carefully. Single adult female detected in the main laboratory. 1 juvenile present. "Shall we take both specimens, Captain?" Veltar waved a dismissive hand. "The juvenile only. Adult specimens from primitive worlds are rarely interesting. The young ones adapt better to laboratory conditions." Inside the research station, alarms suddenly screamed to life. Red warning lights flashed as Dr. Hanna's computer screens filled with emergency messages. The translation was simple and terrifying. Unknown ships approaching at high speed. "Somin." Dr. Hanna called out, her voice sharp with sudden panic. "Come here right now." But it was already too late. The tractor beam struck the station with surgical precision, its invisible force reaching through the metal walls like they were made of paper. Somin's holographic puzzle scattered into meaningless light as the beam locked onto her small form. "Mama," she screamed, her voice high with terror as she felt herself being lifted off the floor. Her small hands reached desperately toward her mother, but the alien technology was far beyond anything humans could resist. Dr. Hanna lunged forward, her arms stretching toward her daughter, but Somin was already being pulled away. The little girl passed through the station's hull as if it wasn't there, the tractor beam somehow maintaining a perfect life support bubble around her. Specimen acquisition protocols initiated, the lieutenant reported with professional detachment. Single juvenile target secured. Biological readings appear normal for the species. "Somin." Dr. Hanna's pleas echoed uselessly in the empty lab as she watched her daughter disappear into the alien ship. Her hands pressed against the transparent aluminum windows, but there was nothing she could do except watch as the silver vessels prepared to depart. Captain Veltar barely glanced at the human child now secured in their specimen bay. She was crying, calling for her mother in a language his translation systems easily decoded. Just another frightened primitive, like thousands of others his people had collected over the centuries. "Set course for the nearest research facility," he ordered. "Standard processing protocols. The scientists will want to begin their studies immediately." The Zephyrian ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only scorched metal where their energy fields had touched the station. Dr. Hanna collapsed to her knees in the sudden silence, her daughter's screams still echoing in her ears. Within hours, her emergency transmission had reached Earth. The message was simple but devastating. Alien forces had taken a human child. Earth's Unified Defense Council convened in an emergency session that would change the course of galactic history. Fleet Admiral Park Jin-ho stood before the massive holographic display showing Somin's last known trajectory, his weathered face carved from stone. Around him, the most powerful military leaders in human space studied the data with growing anger. The alien ships had simply appeared, taken what they wanted, and disappeared back into the vast darkness between stars. "They have taken one of ours," Admiral Park said quietly, his voice steady but his eyes burning with cold fire. "They will learn what that means." The other admirals nodded grimly. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this day, developing weapons and technologies that the galaxy had never seen. The time for hiding was over. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. 3 months had passed since Somin's abduction, and the Zephyrian Empire treated Earth's diplomatic protests like annoying background noise. Ambassador Krelvash deleted the human messages without reading them, just as he had done with hundreds of other primitive species over his long career. Another transmission from the humans, his aide reported with boredom. Same demands as before. Return the specimen, cease all operations in their territory, the usual primitive nonsense. Emperor Rathmul lounged on his crystalline throne, his ancient form sustained by technology that had kept him alive for 8 centuries. He had seen countless species rise and fall during his reign. What could one insignificant world possibly do against the might of an empire that spanned thousands of star systems? "Ignore them," he commanded with a wave of his clawed hand. "If they become too troublesome, we will simply take more specimens. Perhaps that will teach them their place." The Emperor had no way of knowing that his casual dismissal had just sealed his empire's fate. Far from the imperial capital, Commander Li Dong-sik stood on the bridge of the stealth destroyer Silent Thunder, watching the Proxima research station grow larger on his screens. The massive alien facility hung in space like a metal spider, its long arms reaching out toward the nearby star to collect energy. "All systems ready, Commander," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin. Her voice was calm and professional, but her eyes burned with the same cold anger that had consumed humanity for 3 months. Li Dong-sik nodded slowly. His own daughter was the same age as Somin. Every human military officer understood what this mission really meant. This wasn't just about one little girl anymore. This was about sending a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Begin the attack," he ordered quietly. The human ships moved like ghosts through space, their hulls bending light itself until they became nearly invisible. The Zephyrians had never seen stealth technology like this. Their sensors showed empty space right up until the moment human weapons tore through their shields. Station Commander Zek Val watched in horror as his defensive systems crumbled like paper. Energy beams that should have been impossible cut through his station's armor as if it were soft plastic. The attacking ships appeared on his screens for only seconds at a time before vanishing again. "Impossible," he breathed, his voice shaking with disbelief. "Their technology, it's beyond anything in our databases. How did a primitive species develop weapons like this?" His aide frantically worked the communication systems, trying to send a distress call to the Imperial fleet. But the human attack was precise and surgical. They had already destroyed the station's long-range transmitters with their first strike. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin watched her targeting display with satisfaction as another section of the alien station exploded in brilliant fire. Primary weapons offline. Life support failing. "They're finished, Commander." The attack lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it ended, the Proxima research station was nothing but glowing debris scattered across space. But the humans weren't done yet. A message beacon deployed from the Silent Thunder, broadcasting on all Imperial communication channels. The transmission was simple but devastating. A recording of little Somin's voice asking over and over again, "Mama, when can I come home?" Back on Earth, Dr. Choi Minho emerged from the classified research bunkers deep beneath Seoul. For 50 years, he and his team had worked in absolute secrecy, studying crashed alien vessels and reverse engineering technologies that shouldn't exist. The truth was carefully hidden from the galaxy. Humanity had been preparing for this day since their first contact with alien technology decades ago. Every crashed ship, every piece of recovered equipment, every breakthrough discovery had been kept secret and weaponized. "Phase 2 is ready for deployment," Dr. Choi reported to the Military Council. Behind him, massive screens showed technical diagrams that would have shocked the galaxy's greatest scientists. "Our stealth systems are generations ahead of anything in the known databases. Our weapons can punch through any known shield technology." Admiral Park Jin-ho stood before the tactical displays in Earth's war room, watching as more human fleets deployed across known space. Each ship was a masterpiece of hidden engineering, carrying weapons that bent the laws of physics and defense systems that made them nearly untouchable. "Sir," reported Captain Kim Yunju from the communication station, "all fleet commanders are reporting ready status. The message has been painted on every hull as ordered." The message was simple and appeared in dozens of galactic languages: "Return her." 2 words that would soon become the most feared phrase in Zephyrian space. The human ships moved out in perfect coordination, their destinations carefully chosen for maximum psychological impact. They weren't targeting military installations or strategic resources. Instead, they were going after the symbols of imperial power, the research stations and administrative centers that made the Zephyrians feel secure. On the bridge of the battlecruiser Vengeance, Admiral Song Myung-soo watched the star charts with grim satisfaction. His ship was one of 12 heading for the Tau Ceti system, where the Empire maintained its largest research complex. "They thought we were primitive," he said to his crew. "They thought we were harmless. They were wrong about everything." The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that some mistakes could never be undone. They had taken one human child, thinking it was a simple specimen collection from a backward world. Instead, they had awakened something that had been hiding in the darkness, preparing and waiting for exactly this moment. Across the galaxy, Imperial commanders would soon receive the same terrifying reports. Human ships appearing from nowhere, striking with impossible weapons, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. And always, the same haunting message echoing across their communication systems. The war had begun and humanity was no longer hiding. The galaxy watched in growing horror as humanity's campaign of terror unfolded like a nightmare across the stars. Captain Yoon Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the stealth frigate Ghost Walker, his eyes fixed on the massive research facility hanging in space before them. The Zephyrian installation was beautiful in its own alien way, all flowing curves and crystalline towers that caught the light of the nearby star. It would be gone in minutes. "Target confirmed," reported Lieutenant Nam So-young from her sensor station, her fingers dancing across the controls with practiced precision. "Research Facility Omega. Intelligence reports show they're holding specimens from at least 12 different species." Captain Yoon nodded slowly, his face showing no emotion. 6 months ago, he had been a peaceful cargo hauler, moving supplies between Earth's outer colonies. Now he commanded one of humanity's most advanced warships, and his cargo was death itself. "Begin the liberation," he ordered quietly. The Ghost Walker moved like its name suggested, sliding through space without making a sound or casting a shadow. The Zephyrian sensors couldn't detect it until the human weapons were already charging. By then it was far too late. The attack was swift, brutal, and complete. Human energy beams, powered by technology that shouldn't exist, cut through the facility's defenses like a hot knife through butter. The alien shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, were useless against humanity's impossible arsenal. "Research Facility Omega destroyed," Lieutenant Nam reported with satisfaction. "No survivors among the Zephyrian staff. All specimens have been recovered and are being transferred to Medical Bay." Captain Yoon watched as the massive alien structure broke apart in brilliant explosions. Each piece that tumbled away into space represented years of Imperial research, decades of stolen knowledge, countless lives destroyed in the name of science. "Message beacon deployed," his communications officer added. "Broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was always the same. A recording of little Somin's voice asking over and over again, "Mama, when can I come home?" The innocent words echoed across the communication networks of a dozen star systems, reminding everyone exactly why humanity had declared war on the mighty Zephyrian Empire. On the imperial capital world of Zephyr Prime, Emperor Rathmul paced his throne room like a caged animal. Reports flooded in from across his domain, each one more devastating than the last. His 800-year reign was crumbling before his eyes, and he couldn't understand how it was happening. Another research station gone, his intelligence chief reported nervously, his hands shaking as he read from his data pad. "That's the 15th this month. The humans aren't fighting a war, Your Majesty. They're hunting us." The Emperor's clawed hands clenched into fists. His empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia, crushing dozens of rebellions and conquering hundreds of worlds. How could one primitive planet be causing this much damage? "Where are our fleets?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the crystalline walls. "Why can't we stop them?" "The humans appear from nowhere, strike with impossible precision, then vanish before our forces can respond," the intelligence chief explained miserably. "Their stealth technology is beyond anything in our databases. It's like they're fighting with weapons from the future." Emperor Rathmul turned to stare out the massive windows of his throne room, looking up at the stars that had once seemed so firmly under his control. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving like ghosts through his territory, striking at will and disappearing before anyone could stop them. They rescued 17 species from our research stations, his aide added quietly. The liberated worlds are calling them heroes. Some of our client species are already talking about independence. Heroes? Rathmol's voice cracked like a whip, his ancient face twisted with rage. They're terrorists, murderers, savages who don't understand the natural order of things. But even as he spoke the words, the Emperor knew they rang hollow. Deep in the Empire's prison ships and slave worlds, other voices were whispering different words. Saviors, freedom, hope. Far away on Luna, Dr. Yang Minesio studied the psychological profiles streaming in from across Zephyrian space. Her command center was a marvel of human technology, with holographic displays showing the mental state of entire populations. The enemy's morale is collapsing faster than we expected, she reported to Admiral Park Jin-ho via secure communication. Fear is spreading through their empire like wildfire. Our psychological warfare division estimates their military effectiveness has dropped by 60% in the past month. Admiral Park nodded grimly from his flagship orbiting Earth. Through the viewports, he could see construction yards working around the clock to build more ships, more weapons, more tools of war. Humanity had awakened something dark and terrible in itself, and there would be no going back. Good, he said simply. Let them understand what they've awakened. Let them know that when you touch one human child, you declare war on all of humanity. Across Zephyrian space, client species that had lived under imperial rule for generations watched human forces tear through the mighty empire's defenses with growing excitement. The Altarians, enslaved for 3 centuries, began secretly organizing resistance cells. The vegan traders, forced to give half their profits to imperial tax collectors, started hiding weapons in their cargo holds. If these newcomer humans could make the mighty Zephyrian Empire bleed, perhaps freedom was possible after all. Perhaps the age of imperial domination was finally coming to an end. The hunt continued, and with each passing day, the galaxy learned to fear the sight of human ships appearing on their sensors. Emperor Rathmol stood in the depths of his flagship, watching his 1,000-year empire crumble through the viewscreen. Rebellion had erupted across dozens of worlds as his client species rose up against imperial rule. His fleets were scattered and broken, his research stations lay in ruins, and the humans continued their relentless hunt through his territory. In desperation, he had retreated to his most heavily defended ship, bringing with him his final card to play. Behind him, in a small holding cell, 8-year-old Somin sat quietly on the cold metal floor. Her clothes were dirty and torn, her face thin from months of captivity, but her eyes still held the spark of intelligence that had made her so interesting to Zephyrian scientists. Set up the broadcast equipment, Rathmol ordered his remaining loyal guards. His voice was hoarse from rage and fear. After 8 centuries of absolute power, he couldn't accept that primitive humans were destroying everything he had built. The communication system activated, sending his message across the galaxy on all frequencies. Rathmol positioned himself in front of the camera, with Somin's cell clearly visible behind him. The little girl looked up at the red recording light with tired confusion. Humans, he snarled into the camera, his ancient face twisted with desperate fury. You have pushed too far. Your terrorist attacks end now or this child dies. He gestured towards Somin, who shrank back against the wall of her cell. One more attack against my empire and I will personally execute her. Withdraw your forces immediately, or watch her blood stain your hands forever. The broadcast went out across human space, reaching Earth within hours. In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Park Jin-ho watched the message with eyes like chips of ice. Around him, his staff waited in tense silence for his response. Sir, whispered General Kim Tae-young, he's threatening to kill the child. Should we consider pulling back? Admiral Park slowly stood up, his weathered face showing no emotion except for the cold fire burning in his eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried across the galaxy with the weight of humanity's judgment. You have made a mistake, he said simply. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy, spoken of in whispers on 1,000 worlds. The elite human special forces had been preparing for this moment since the day Somin was taken. These weren't ordinary soldiers anymore. Months of experimental enhancement had changed them into something beyond human, beyond alien, beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Oh Hyun-woo led the insertion team aboard the Imperial flagship. His body had been modified with technology that made him faster than thought, stronger than steel, and nearly invisible to all known sensors. Behind him came 11 other enhanced warriors, each one capable of fighting an entire army alone. They materialized aboard the Zephyrian ship like living shadows, their stealth systems so advanced that security cameras couldn't record them properly. The footage that survived showed only glimpses, warriors flowing like liquid darkness through corridors, moving past guards who never knew death was walking beside them. The Zephyrian soldiers died without making a sound. Human weapons whispered through the air, guided by enhanced reflexes that could target a heartbeat from across a room. Within minutes, the flagship's defenses had been neutralized completely. Captain O found Somin's cell deep in the ship's security section. The little girl was curled up in the corner, clutching a makeshift toy she had built from scraps of metal and plastic. When she saw the human soldier appear through the sealed door like a ghost, her eyes widened with desperate hope. "It's okay," he whispered, his enhanced voice somehow gentle despite the killing machine he had become. He knelt down and gathered her carefully in his arms, feeling how light she had become after months of captivity. "We're taking you home, Somin. Your mama is waiting." But the rescue was only the beginning. Throughout the massive ship, other enhanced soldiers were systematically dismantling the Imperial command structure. Sergeant Kang Mi-young moved through the bridge like a force of nature, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to disable dozens of officers before they could even draw their weapons. Emperor Rathmul cowered on his throne as human soldiers appeared around him like phantoms materializing from nightmares. His guards were already dead, their bodies crumpled on the floor without a mark to show how they had died. "What are you?" he gasped, his voice shaking with terror as he stared at the enhanced humans surrounding him. They moved wrong, flowed wrong, existed in ways that hurt to look at directly. Commander Bei Junho stepped forward, his enhanced features hidden behind a featureless black mask. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of humanity's judgment. "We are what happens," he said quietly, "when you take our children." The Emperor's scream echoed through the ship as he realized that his empire, his reign, his very existence was over. The humans hadn't come to negotiate or make demands. They had come to end everything he represented. Hours later, aboard the rescue ship racing toward Earth, Dr. Lim Hygiene ran medical scans on little Somin. What she found made her hands shake as she read the results. The Imperial experiments had changed the child, enhanced her in ways that the Zephyrians didn't understand. Somin's neural patterns showed something completely new. Her brain had been rewired, connected to something larger than herself. In the darkness of the medical bay, her eyes glowed faintly with an inner light that had never existed in any human before. "Mama," she whispered, her voice carrying strange harmonics, "I can hear them. All the humans. We're connected now." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had gained more than just their child back. 2 years had passed since the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, and the galaxy looked completely different. Where once mighty Imperial fleets had patrolled the space lanes with arrogant confidence, now Earth's sleek warships moved through the stars like silent guardians. The old order was gone, replaced by something the galaxy had never seen before. President Song Doon stood at the podium of the Galactic Assembly on New Geneva Station, looking out at representatives from hundreds of worlds. The station itself had once been a Zephyrian stronghold, its crystalline towers reaching out toward the stars in displays of imperial power. Now those same towers flew the flags of liberated worlds alongside Earth's blue banner. "We didn't seek this war," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Humanity was content to explore the stars peacefully, to learn and grow alongside our galactic neighbors. But when they took one of our children, the Zephyrian Empire chose war for us." In the front row of the assembly, 10-year-old Somin sat quietly beside the human delegation. She looked like any normal child at first glance, but those who knew what to look for could see the subtle changes her ordeal had brought. Her eyes held depths that no child should possess, and sometimes they seemed to glow faintly in dim light. The Zephyrian experiments had changed her in ways their scientists never understood. What they thought was simple biological research had actually awakened something dormant in human genetics, something that connected Somin to every other human in the galaxy through an invisible network of shared consciousness. "The child serves as our youngest diplomat now," President Song continued, gesturing toward Somin with obvious pride. "She helps us understand species that were once enslaved by the Empire. Through her enhanced abilities, we can communicate in ways that words alone cannot express." From the observation deck high above the assembly floor, Fleet Admiral Park Jin-ho watched the proceedings with satisfaction. The man who had once promised that the Zephyrians would learn what it meant to take a human child was now Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Forces, the most powerful military organization the galaxy had ever known. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see Earth's newest dreadnoughts patrolling the space lanes around New Geneva Station. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining captured alien technology with innovations that shouldn't have been possible. The names painted on their hulls told the story of humanity's transformation. Never again, Somin's justice, children's guardian, protective instinct. Admiral, his aide whispered, the Centauri delegation is requesting a private meeting. They want to discuss joining the Human Protection Zone. Admiral Park nodded without taking his eyes off the ships outside. The Human Protection Zone now encompassed nearly a quarter of the galaxy, offering safety and freedom to any species willing to accept humanity's simple rules. Protect the innocent, respect the rights of children, and never again allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Schedule it for tomorrow, he replied. Make sure Somin is available to help with the communication barriers. Down in the assembly chamber, President Song was explaining humanity's new role in galactic affairs. The speech was being broadcast across hundreds of star systems, reaching billions of beings who had lived their entire lives under imperial rule. We do not seek to replace the empire with another empire, she said firmly. Humanity offers partnership, not domination. Protection, not conquest. But make no mistake, we will never again allow children to be taken from their families in the name of science or progress. The assembled delegates listened with a mixture of respect and fear. They had all seen the reports from the war, watched the footage of human ships moving like ghosts through space, witnessed the complete destruction of the most powerful empire in galactic history. Humanity had proven that they possessed technology and capabilities far beyond anything previously imagined. In the research centers beneath New Geneva Station, Dr. Cho Sung-min was putting the finishing touches on his final report to the Scientific Council. The discoveries made during and after the war had fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of their own species. The Zephyrian experiments on the child didn't just change her, he wrote, his fingers flying across the holographic keyboard. They activated dormant potentials that have existed in human genetics for millennia. We are no longer the same species we were 3 years ago. The changes weren't visible to the naked eye, but they were real and profound. Human coordination in battle had become almost telepathic. Soldiers could sense each other's intentions across vast distances. Pilots could merge their consciousness with their ships in ways that made them unbeatable in combat. Most importantly, every human now shared a connection to what they called the protection network, a shared awareness that made it impossible for any human child to be harmed without every other human knowing about it instantly. The implications are staggering, Dr. Cho continued in his report. We have become a species designed to protect our young, enhanced by alien science to be the perfect guardians. The galaxy may never understand what they created when they took Somin, but they will live with the consequences forever. As the assembly session continued, delegates from across the galaxy voted on humanity's proposals for galactic governance. Species after species cast their votes in favor, some out of genuine belief in human ideals, others out of simple fear of what would happen if they refused. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would lead the new galactic order with the simple understanding that some lines must never be crossed. The age of empires built on the suffering of the innocent was over. The galaxy had learned to protect its children, and humanity stood watch to make sure the lesson was never forgotten.